Hello and welcome to Cutting to the Bud in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. I'm Ben and as always I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
Claire.
Hey.
And the ghost of Pete's Tooth is here. Pete is here this week, recovered from his minor surgery.
Oh, I'll tell you what, mate, 2 weeks of fucking hell.
Nothing worse than toothache.
Dry socket, wouldn't wish it upon anybody, honestly.
Dry socket?
They pull the tooth, and because it's the lower jaw, and I'm a smoker, you're very prone to get what's known as dry socket, which is when there's no clot forming. So you just left the hole right down into the socket. Oof. Where obviously the root was about a good 8 to 10 mil. So yeah, it's just a big hole, and that was worse than the pain of the toothache. It was a bad toothache anyway, but all up my nose, all round my neck, all around everything. Horrible, mate. Horrible. For nearly 2 weeks.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm good again. Woo!
Don't have a tooth though.
No.
Today we're going to talk about, this is Mike's pick, as if you can probably tell, the Paris Commune of 1871. Would you like to explain what the Paris Commune is very briefly, Mike?
Well, it was an experiment in a worker-led sort of society that sort of lasted for about 2 months.
2 months.
It was really successful then.
Lasted, or was the experiment just for the 2 months? Or
No, it was brutally put down and lots of people were killed.
oh,
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we're about to find out.
We certainly are. But first, we'll thank some new and returning listeners. Alphen aan den Rijn in the Netherlands. I think I pronounced that right. I've always wanted to say the next one. Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. London in the United Kingdom, the Bronx, New York, Newcastle in Indiana, Niles, Michigan, Navalcarnero in Spain, Fort Lauderdale in Florida, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Stevenage, UK, Ashburn, Virginia, Porterville, Missouri, Guadalajara, Spain, and Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas, eh? That's the first time they've been up there.
It is. Fire good in the air for me, Austin.
yeehaw!
TX, what is that? Texas?
Texas,
Yeah.
It is indeed.
Austin, Texas.
I'm surprised you can't tar everyone with the same brush, can you?
I bet they don't all speak like Dolly Parton down there.
Wouldn't mind if they did. I like Dolly.
Even still.
Yeah, I still would. Dolly Parton's a fancy of it, Pete. You would.
For the story value of it, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Someone said to her once, "Why have you got small feet?" And she said, "Things don't grow in the shade."
Actually, quite a sassy lady if you read some of the interview answers she's given.
Well, with boobs that big that clearly weren't natural, she's obviously a bit sassy, isn't she? You know what I mean?
That's it. And that hair. That's some impressive hair. Right, let's go through the Paris Commune. 150 years ago, the world witnessed the emergence of the first ever Workers' Republic, limited only to Paris, but nevertheless. So not so long ago, 150 years ago, the spot where today Sacré-Cœur, the basilica, nicknamed the Alabaster Wedding Cake, now stands atop Montmartre in Paris, was once an insalubrious neighbourhood, home to proletarians, day labourers and sex workers. It was also the birthplace of what Karl Marx saw as a harbinger of things to come, the Paris Commune. Although, Marx. I've already had a discussion with Mike about Karl Marx this last week, and I'm not going to get drawn into it now.
What's a proletarian?
The proletariat are the workers, the lower classes, basically.
The voters.
It comes from the Latin. The Romans had proles. If you were prole, you were...
So what's a day labourer then?
Day labourers are a bit more upscale as opposed to a prole.
Alright.
Proles don't work.
Okay.
Well, they beg.
Got you.
I don't think so. I think it just means the working class, doesn't it?
Yeah, the proletariat. At least the sex workers are there.
I knew what they were. I knew what they were.
1.5 centuries ago, it was here, perched at the top of Montmartre, that its residents stationed artillery they had acquired through community donations to defend themselves against the Prussian army's siege of Paris. We have to go a little bit back in time, and we'll get there. We've got to go to the Franco-Prussian War the previous year, 1870 to 1871. The French government's attempts to disarm its people led to acts of resistance in working class neighbourhoods. The government fled to Versailles, and the remaining workers, intellectuals and day labourers were tasked with organising the city's defence, its everyday life, and the foundations of an entirely new social structure. The Franco-Prussian War is basically, you've got France, which is sitting there going, we're fucking awesome, because at the time the French, this is a second empire.
Not that long after Napoleon. And
You've got Napoleon III in charge at this point, which was his nephew.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not that long after.
No, they've got an
Napoleon,
overseas
is it?
empire, and the Germans, the Prussians, are like, come on, we want everyone to get together. All these just 30 German states, we want everyone to come together into one big Germany.
Where was Sharp?
Sharp was before this, 1793 to 1815 Sharp, if you look at the Napoleonic Wars.
Okay. So that's the only reference I've got to that kind of era. I'm trying to think what else is like in there. Yeah.
Technology's improved at this point, so you've got breech-loading rifles, you've got primitive machine guns.
Electricity?
No, probably not. Gas lighting, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
The automobile, just about.
No. 1901, the first automobile, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, you got
No,
trains
they were
at this
very,
point.
very rare anyway,
Yeah.
weren't they? Extremely rare.
It was here, in the spring of 1871, that humanity took an irreversible step forward on the path towards its own emancipation. The events experienced by the communards of Paris inform both the lyrics of the Internationale and the political praxis adopted by the Bolsheviks in Russia. As both corrective and inspiration, these experiences were also instrumentalized in order to legitimize state socialist domination. In order to glean lessons from the history of the Paris Commune that retain relevance for political action in the 21st century, this history must first be understood and critically evaluated with respect to its contemporary relevance. It's an interesting one, this is. When I first started looking into this, I was like, man, these guys are charmingly naive. What did they think was going to happen? And then I realised, it's the left, they just can't fucking agree on anything. That's what it boils down to, isn't it?
Well, that was part of the problem, wasn't it?
Which it was. Now, the Paris Commune was established on the 18th of March 1871, but its roots can be traced right back to 1848, when a wave of democratic revolution originating in France washed across the European continent. In Vienna, Warsaw, Rome and Berlin, people took to the streets in protest. Not in Britain, though. We've never kind of had that in Britain. And in fact...
Well, we had the Peasants' Revolt, didn't we?
Yeah, but it rained, everyone went home, and what Tyler got stabbed in the neck. As soon as he got stabbed in the neck, started to rain, everyone went home. We've never had a successful revolution in this country, or even an attempt at a successful revolution.
Let's start one.
That was the closest.
It's
That's the
a
closest.
I think we should do.
In fact, I'd argue that this is slightly wrong. You could probably put this right back to 17... Oh, God, I've got to think when the French Revolution was. 1770s for French Revolution. I'd argue that's when you could trace this back to. The French have always been very politically agitated, haven't they? They've always been like, we don't like the government, fuck it, let's strike.
They take no shit, don't they?
They take no shit.
They will go against fucking anything. I was watching something the other day and it was on about every little law that they passed. It was the Grand Tour on Amazon. And they were saying like every
That's a
little
good episode,
driving law that they passed, I think they decreased the speed limit on the motorway.
That's it.
Oh no, they put speed cameras
up, so they just went out and cut down the speed cameras.
Within like 72 hours, not just a few of them, every single speed camera that they put up,
Totally coordinated, like.
and we're talking thousands of them, were all just either completely torn apart or completely vandalised to the state where they wouldn't work anymore. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Like, go over the country, because it was a countrywide thing that they did. They get them all set up, spent a few weeks getting it all up in the locations, opened it up, 72 hours later, they're all gone. And
They take no
that
shit.
Was it.
And
They
you
never
have to-
came back.
You have to hand it to them. Terrible war record in the last couple of 100 years, but my God, they take no shit.
Yep.
They are very bullshy for cheese-eating surrender monkeys, aren't they?
They haven't always been cheese-eating surrender monkeys, though. That's the problem. Everyone forgets that. They were at one point, they were fucking awesome. The Middle Ages, they were Europe's military dominant power, and even right up to Sharp. They were Europe's dominant military power. It was only when the plucky Brits turned up with the ability to fire 3 rounds a minute in any weather. In France, the democratic revolution was defeated in a matter of months, ending with the bloody suppression of a workers' revolt, protesting against the closure of the national workshops in June 1848. And despite this, the street fighting of this period laid the foundations for the establishment of an autonomous French workers' movement, which operated independently of the centrist bourgeois political parties. I love that word, bourgeois.
Bourgeois.
That was a key prerequisite for the formation of the 72-day-long Republic of Workers in 1871. Following the defeat of the uprising, however, a military dictatorship initially asserted control before handing the reins to Napoleon III a few months later. As Marx set out in the Civil War in France, the coronation of Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew, you think they were just like, we did alright under the first one for a bit. Should we get another one in? We've had
It didn't
two.
good though, did it?
No, it didn't really.
We never learn our lessons, do
Who
we?
was Napoleon II then?
I think it must have been his son. Because he was also crowned King of Rome, the son, as well as Emperor. Kind of lasted very long. The third one got in and he got his arse handed to. They didn't inherit the OG Napoleon's tactical genius. Although I still think it's debate that Napoleon's a bit of, considered a tactical genius.
Well, I think he had some very good officers, didn't he?
He said, my army has an income of 70,000 men a year, which means he was quite happy to lose 70,000 men every year because he could replace them. I think, well, that's not how you win. You want to, you don't want to say that.
That was his strategy, though, wasn't it?
Well,
He had so many people. He could just.
Yeah.
He could just go. It was a bit like Genghis Khan, wasn't it? In a way.
Genghis Khan.
Sorry, Genghis Khan. It was a bit like Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
We'll agree to disagree. Yeah, he used to
Overwhelm the enemy.
Overwhelming amount
Yeah.
in his army.
It's
that
an
it didn't
overwhelming.
matter.
They used the column, didn't they? There was an overwhelming force of people appearing at a point where that particular part of the line couldn't hold them back.
Precisely, yeah.
As Marx set out in the Civil War in France, the coronation of Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew thus represented less a triumph of capitalism than it did the establishment of an authoritarian regime aimed at suppressing a working class that was growing in strength. And yeah, in the late 1800s, the working class are getting pissed off across Europe because, let's face it, kings are still in charge.
Well, they've been having a fucking rough few hundred years, really, haven't they? Let's face it. So they're all a bit pissed off with it, I guess.
If you think about it, France has kind of been in and out of wars at this point for the best part of 80, 90 years, ever since revolutionary France.
Probably and some as well.
So, they haven't had much peace in this time.
No.
But east of the Rhine, in a fragmented Germany, monarchic powers were also able to put down revolutionary efforts and defeat the democracy movement. The latter's demand for German national unity was subsequently co-opted from above, redefined and positioned as a project designed to suit the Prussian-led response. Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck wanted to unify all the German states. And he had a quick look across at France and went, just do something. Go on. I need one war. I need one war for everyone to fucking get together and say, yeah, we're German, we'll take the French on. A lot of these German states had been fighting Napoleon. They didn't really like the French very much, they'd been occupied by Napoleon.
Yeah.
Nobody really liked Napoleon apart from Napoleon.
That's because he tried to fucking conquer everybody. Policies pursued by the Prussian crown were geared towards preserving the monarchy while also seeking to unify Germany. In particular, the incorporation of southern German states into this process of nation-state formation, which was bound to spark resistance in France, which had no interest in seeing a unified and strengthened Germany.
Definitely not.
Don't want your next-door neighbour getting their shit together, do you? Not when they're 30 independent countries. Following the victory of the Prussian-led troops in the so-called Wars of German Unification, the conflict between French and German interests once again resumed centre stage and only continued to intensify. This was a clash between two rival powers who seeking to preserve and expand their spheres of influence both at home and abroad. France has already got an overseas empire at this point. The Germans would really like one, but they've got to get their shit together at home first. In the summer of 1870, Prussia's minister, President Otto von Bismarck, succeeded in provoking the French government in Paris to declare war. I love that he's provoked them so I can... Oh, right, we've got the Kaiser, but I'm in fucking charge. Let's get everyone together. And to be fair, they absolutely spanked the French in this.
Annihilated them.
They were... Well, shortly thereafter, August... saw the first hostilities of the Franco-Prussian War break out with the French assault on Saarbrücken. A few days later, Prussian troops had crossed the Rhine. The beginning of September was marked by the Battle of Sedan, which resulted in the capture of France's last combat-ready field army, along with Napoleon III as prisoners of war. Got completely encircled, tried to break out, failed miserably and surrendered. About 130,000 French soldiers, with another 100,000 under siege in Metz in the south of France. Did not go well for them.
No.
But it didn't end there.
It did not. This sudden defeat sealed the fate of the Second French Empire, but did not signify the end of the war, with the Prussian troops marching onwards towards Paris with the aim of capturing it, because, hey, capture the enemy's capital city, you've won the game, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're having risk.
You're having risk, unless you say that's setting off.
I think it should be done on a percentage amount of how many, how much you've actually captured.
So your thing is like, right, if we capture like 60% of your country, you should just pack it in and say we've won.
Yeah, there's not much coming back from it, is it?
You want
Well, I suppose if you go capitals, you put all your defences around your capital, I guess, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you don't want them getting to your capital. Because they're advancing across your territory. They're taking your stuff. They're taking your food. They're taking your livestock.
They're burning
you
your
can't
women
stop
and
them.
raping your dogs and who knows what else they're doing. Those weird Prussians.
I'm sure they don't want, but they can't stop them, can they?
No, that's the problem. So Paris goes under siege. It gets so bad in Paris, people have to eat the zoo animals. Then they start eating horses. Then they start eating rats. The only people left there were the working class, because all the middle class and anyone that could afford it got out of Dodge as soon as possible.
Where'd they go?
He's buggered off. Anywhere out of Paris.
And it was a harsh winter as well. Make matters worse.
I'd imagine the Prussians weren't having too much fun besieging it in the middle of a harsh
Better than
winter.
them though, innit? You got shells coming around you, you're starving, you're freezing.
They were just bombarding Paris with artillery, trying to make them surrender, which eventually they did. The ongoing situation in and around Paris also offered little encouragement to those hoping to found a free republic either. And by the beginning of October 1870, Paris was under total siege, beset on all sides by Prussian forces, and attempts to break the siege line with troops from the provinces had also failed. At the end of January 1871, Jules Favre, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Provincial Government of National Defence, signed an armistice with the newly formed German Empire, which had literally officially proclaimed itself 10 days earlier in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. The armistice treaty stipulated that only a freshly placed elected National Assembly would have the power to ratify an eventual peace treaty. The First Assembly met on the 12th of January in Bordeaux, far removed from the nation's capital, which still remained in a state of total siege, and elected as Prime Minister a proponent of constitutional monarchy in the form of Adolphe Thiers. Favre, who brokered the armistice, remained in his post as Foreign Minister, and Adolphe Thiers is a raving lunatic.
Yeah.
He is a complete sociopath.
Ruthless cunt.
He's a butcher, basically, if you want to. In Paris, both the choice of the location for the National Assembly as well as the makeup of the new government were viewed as betrayals of those who had spent months defending the capital against the siege, which is understandable. If you've been sat there for months eating fucking rats, and all of a sudden the new government of France goes, let's do that in Versailles instead, or Bordeaux, let's go and make peace down there. And remember as well, part of the deal was Germany got 5 billion francs for winning.
That's a lot as well.
Quarter of their economy.
Yeah, a quarter of their GDP
Yeah, hell of a lot of money there.
for the year.
Wow.
Plus they got Alsace and Lorraine, which are border provinces, which they'd always had their eye on.
They're major industrial areas.
Yeah,
aren't
it's
they?
the Rhineland area, and that caused some problems in World War One and then World War Two later on.
Can I just say, like, what's the crack with the name Adolf then? Fuck's sake, man.
He was Austrian, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was Adolf as well.
So was Adolf.
What, Adolphe?
Adolphe, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same name basically,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it
Let's
is.
face it.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, but it's probably a good idea that the name's died out, hasn't it? You don't get many Adolfs now, do you?
Well, you say that. My best friend's expecting, and he
Shut
said he's
up.
going to bring it back. He's going to try it.
Was he gonna start, is he also going to grow a little moustache?
Well, when he's old enough, obviously.
Well, I was just asking for trouble.
He's not really.
I was going to say,
Would be
surname
funny
isn't,
if he did, though.
surname isn't Hitler, by any chance.
Adolf Newton.
What you've got is like a lot of French citizens, working class, and the National Guard, who are also working class. They're kind of Bit of a police force, bit of an army, bit of a reserve. Very liberal. They used to elect their own officers and things like that.
Not forgetting,
Didn't do a lot of training.
within this working class, you'll have a lot of surviving ex-bloody French bloody Foreign Legion.
No, the Foreign Legion wasn't a thing at this point.
Wasn't it?
No.
When was that formed then?
Not long after the Second World War.
Is it that new?
I thought it was older than that.
I thought it was.
Oh, no,
much
sorry.
older.
No, you are right. The French Foreign Legion was formed earlier. But they were never permitted to serve in France, the Foreign Legion.
It's French
Yeah.
Foreign Legion.
Yeah.
Whereas they were all generally criminals, that weren't
They were foreigners.
No
weren't they?
questions were asked if you wanted to join up. Same now. No questions are asked.
Yeah. I had a friend in the Navy who was ex-Foreign Legion. Is that? What? He was shot. It was really strange though, English lad. But he'd been in the Foreign Legion for
Maybe
like,
he'd murdered somebody.
well, genuinely, we didn't know what the fuck. But from what I gather, it is once you've done so many years, that's
3
like
years, I think.
you serve your time for what that's your time served kind of thing. So if you have committed a crime, and that's been your chosen kind of punishment, to believe you can almost opt to do that.
I know you have to learn to speak French
Yeah,
immediately,
yeah.
and if after so many years you get French citizenship and you can live in France, but until then, no. I think the most senior NCO a few years ago in the French Foreign Legion was a British guy.
Sounds about right.
After the Second World War, it was full of ex-SS guys, because they were like, oh, where the fuck can I go?
Well, I ain't learning French. If I commit a murder, I'm just going to do the time.
I can't see you being in the Foreign Legion at all, to be honest, Mike.
I can't really see him committing murder either, to be honest.
I don't know, if I keep slagging marks off, you might stab me.
Is that what that knife's doing? Oh my God, yeah.
This is for the proletariat!
Sneak attack.
The Parisians were not happy, is what it boils down to, so they went, you know what? Screw it.
Revolution!
Now, in order to defend Paris against German troops in September 1870, the Thiers-led government had reorganised the National Guard, enlisted unemployed men into its regiments. This led to a change in the military's demographic character. They deposed their officers, they elected new commanders from their own ranks, and also established their own governing body. Probably not the best thing for a military to do.
No. It's okay to have, everybody equal in normal society. In an army, it's counterproductive, isn't it?
You need leadership.
You need structure and leadership.
You need people who know what they're doing, not
Yeah.
Jeff the baker who won an election and looks nice in his uniform. It's
Yeah.
not good. It's not good enough. On the evening of March 17th, the government's inner circle resolved to seize the National Guard's artillery as a means of neutralising the Central Committee's power. So they don't like the fact the Guard have got a bit too much power. They want the artillery. In service of this plan, the government published a statement which slandered the Central Committee and painted it as a danger to the young French Third Republic. And not wanting to solely rely on the desired effect of this statement, on the morning of the 18th, they gave orders to troops to march towards Paris and stage a surprise attack against the National Guard's positions, securing the artillery installations to the government's arse in the process. Meanwhile, the residential districts began to wake up in the morning, and their inhabitants saw what was happening on the streets in front of them. So basically, the French government has gone, we don't like the fact that your National Committee, who's your National Guard, has got this power. We'd like those cannons, please. So they send in French troops, regular French troops, to get the cannons. As an eyewitness wrote, as on other major occasions, the women led from the front.
They did. Very women orientated it was.
Yeah, they gave equal rights to women.
Yeah.
They gave women key roles. We'll get onto it, Claire. Don't worry. There's
They had a
section.
prominent role in it, didn't they?
Yes, they did, yeah, absolutely. They did not wait for their husbands. They encircled the mitrailleuse, which is a cannon-shaped volley gun, somewhat basically like a primitive Gatling gun, the old 7 barrels, they turn the crank, and cried out to the gunners, "This is shameful, what are you doing here?" The soldiers did not answer. As time passed, larger groupings of National Guard troops arrived on the scene, but no one really wanted to fire the first shot. General Lecomte ordered the government soldiers to open fire on the men and women. He's the chap in charge of this little French military
What's his
expedition.
name? Lecomte.
Yes, might as well be. And they refused and started mingling with the National Guard troops, and they arrested the general in the end.
Yeah.
Would you like to know what happened to the general?
Did he get fucked?
He was strung up.
Ah,
He was
He was
lynched.
shot. Or was he lynched?
He was lynched. Don't want to waste powder on him.
But, you know, too fucking
Stop
right.
mingling.
Yeah,
All
they're
them
just
troops to fire on your citizens.
on women and men, you know, women predominantly at the start.
Oh, yeah, they were
And
great.
this is why I think that any sort of revolution would gain traction with with any country that's got a professional army drawn from volunteers. I mean, if you're in the British Army and you're stood there, V for Vendetta, right? You know the end to V for Vendetta. You've got the army in front of the Houses of Parliament, and everyone starts advancing in the VMAS, and they're like, what do we do? And he's like, I'm not going to hold the open fire. Because you don't know if that's your mom, your brother, your sister, your dad in there. You're not going to fire on people that may be your family.
That's what happens, isn't it, in revolutions? That's the turning point when the army and the police no longer protect the corrupt.
Yeah.
And go onto the people's side.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the turning point, isn't it? Usually.
Yeah, totally.
There's a breaking
Called
point.
unity.
Yeah, there's a breaking point where the soldiers and the police are like, no, fuck you, I'm not going to continue massacring my own people.
Yeah, that's what it is. And as soon as you get that on side, you've won. But in this scenario, and it happened, the French have always had this thing where they're like, I'm not going to do that. When Napoleon the First rocked back up in France, he had like 1,500 guys with him. Whole brigade of French infantry came at them, and he just went, look, here I am. Shoot me if you want. You know I am. Shoot me. And they all went, nah, and joined with him.
And the thing with this cannon as well, it was a symbol of...
Defence,
Yeah.
defiance. These cannons have been firing against the Prussians.
And the people have been the ones that have been operating it and dying at the front line, protecting their neighbourhoods. And all of a sudden they want to take these guns away.
Yes. Why should you weren't here.
Yeah.
Where were you? You were all in German captivity.
Or ran away to
Or-
Versailles,
Yeah.
which a lot of them did. The government just upped and went. As soon as the Prussians on the outskirts of Paris, they were like, fuck it, we're going. Left
They
the
always
people...
save their own skin.
Of
don't they?
course, and left the people to defend themselves. And then they say, hang on a minute, I don't like the fact that you're organising your own defence here and promoting people.
Well, you
from
can't have the
working
wrong class of person promoted.
So we're
right?
going to come in and we're going to take the guns away. And then they say, no, you're not taking our guns. And he's like, right, fire them.
The cheek of you.
Yeah,
The fucking cheek.
Yeah.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Never mind that they've been the ones holding the city. Oh, and also, I never mentioned, when, the armistice and they paid them the 5 billion francs and gave them the territory, they also allowed the Prussians to hold a 2-day military parade through the centre of Paris,
Yeah.
just to really rub it in.
What?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, having failed to capture the cannons and surprised by the workers' resolve, Thiers decided to decamp the capital and head to Versailles, accompanied by his government and loyalist army regiments. They were able to flee the city with ease due to the fact that the National Guard battalions, anticipating a renewed attack by government forces, had barricaded themselves in their neighbourhood strongholds or otherwise directed their movements to avoid a confrontation. So they're still trying to keep the peace a bit here.
Yeah. They don't want to fire on the soldiers, do they?
Well, no, they should be fellow citizens. I should be wearing like a cocked hat with a tricolour on it. The tricolour little ribbon on it. I am down for the French Revolution, by the way. I really am. That's fantastic. We need that in this country.
Be nice, wouldn't it?
I think we're past that, aren't we?
I think so.
We're building to it, aren't we?
Wouldn't you like to see...
No, I just think not. We haven't had a revolution. I don't mean like we're past it like that. I just think that we're the mentality,
There's always a breaking
the
point.
brutality that it would take.
Yeah, look at the brutal policies that the Tories are putting in. More austerity now. It's not enough that 330,000 people died in the first austerity. They want to do it again.
But the problem is,
Social murder, isn't it?
as soon as you
What
get
else
your
is
guy
it?
in...
You're merging your own citizens for political fucking ideologies.
It's for profit, isn't it? It's what it boils down to.
Yeah, keep the rich rich and starve the poor, innit?
But let's say you have this revolution. Now, the guy in charge is probably obviously very charismatic, but also probably also a bit of a brutal man. Because he's had to launch an armed revolution. Now, even if you get a bunch of people round him to sort of pacify him and give him good advice, how long does it last? Until the next brutal man rises and decides, you know what, he's gone a bit weak, I could have him. Because once you've had one free-for-all, once you've had one uprising, it can become a free-for-all. I'm not saying don't have uprisings, but look, there's always revolutions, counter-revolutions, a counter-counter-revolution. You see it time and time again in history, and even in recent history. Every time you have a revolution, there's a counter-revolution. And unless you nip that in the bud, very brutally, And very quickly, you've got a civil war on your hands. And you don't want that because you're trying to consolidate power.
Yeah.
Trouble is that if you try and win power with violence,
It's the only way you can.
No,
It's the
it isn't.
government. It is. In today's world, it'd be the only way you could do it in this country.
that'd be stupid. We got a fucking electoral system.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Really?
Well, it's corrupted by the media for a start, so there you go.
Yeah.
It's out. Join me or die. We're on to London. Simple as. Right, that's how that's how you have to do it.
No, you can't be.
You've got
through
to
violence.
unite enough people with similar ideologies to go, right, this is how we're going to do things now.
Gandhi showed the way.
Oh, yeah.
Are you with Ben?
What do you mean? Oh yeah, overthrew a fucking empire.
I think the violence.
Yeah, well, he was still a paedophile.
Allegedly, you claim.
You just sleep between two teenage girls, mate.
What's your point?
Well, you're saying everyone's a hypocrite.
I'm sitting on the, society as we know it is past that, we're past that sort of violence. We know that it can't, it doesn't solve anything, does it?
Revolutions going on all the time, all around the world. There's at least 3 going on right now we haven't heard of.
Revolutions?
Yeah.
It almost happened in America, didn't it?
You can argue that the attack on the march on the Capitol building was certainly could have been a spark. No, Cuba, 1950s, Iran in the 70s. The war on terror in Iraq was effectively a counter-revolution because the guys that was fundamentalists didn't want to be ruled by the Americans.
Afghanistan's now being ruled.
Afghanistan,
by,
counter-revolution.
it's now
being ruled by the Taliban.
Taliban, and that was only 2 years ago.
Not even that.
Yeah. So
I think join me or die is a bit, that's counterproductive. I think everybody needs to be as angry as each other. Then it's a revolution, isn't it?
But you look at Afghanistan.
Join us or die.
It works.
It's very effective. It's simple.
Do you know what? They're better off in Afghanistan probably now. I don't know whether they are or not. They're probably better
There were
off
tens of
now.
thousands of people fucking died in their little counter-revolution. It wasn't fun. They were killing women and children and kids. It's a strange hill you're choosing to die on, Pete.
No. Afghanistan was fucked before anyway. What it was fucked.
It's only partially fucked.
Yeah, but
Well, now that if you're a girl, you've got no education.
No. But have they done anything to help it yet or not? Because they were promising that they were going to rebuild Afghanistan and make it.
Oh no, they just
Prosper
carrying on as they usually have, haven't they?
Have they accomplished any of that yet, or is it still in as dire state as it was?
It's probably still in dire state as it was.
Beauty parlours,
You don't know because they don't talk about it.
No.
There's no coverage on it.
No, you only
There's
see
no
them-
interest anymore, is there?
No. You see them all jumping on the plane, like trying to jump on a plane because that's sensationalism of it all,
Yeah.
isn't it? And now it's petered off and couldn't say the last time I've seen anything about Afghanistan on the TV.
No, I
Why
can't.
did you say petered off? Why didn't you say clared off? Or bend off?
Because getting bent off is something itself.
Odd.
Anyway, back to this.
As the sun set over Paris that evening, power in the French capital essentially resided on the streets. Given this situation, the National Guard Central Committee decided to cobble together a provisional government. The majority of the Parisian population first learned of the shift that had occurred in their city the following morning when the Central Committee occupied the Hotel de Ville and raised a red flag and addressed the city's residents with their first proclamation. I'll quote it. You have charged us with organising the defence of
With the
Paris.
French accent.
I'm not doing the French accent.
Oh, what?
You have charged us with organising the defence, because I can't do a French accent for long periods. You have charged us with organising the defence of Paris and of your rights and laws. It's probably highly racist.
You can't impersonate anybody these days. Is it racist?
Just breaking the subject. Yeah, a poo from The Simpsons. White guy was doing it. Won't do it anymore. Said no. Cleveland from Family Guy was a white guy that did it. Now they've got a black guy to do it. He said apparently it's representation issues.
Cleveland was a white guy.
Yeah.
The voice of him.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And now they've got a black guy who did YouTube impressions doing Cleveland because he did the best Cleveland.
Yeah, it's a bit different though, isn't it, from speaking with a French accent?
Yeah, even so, mate, I ain't running down that road. I ain't gonna leave myself open for that criticism.
But you're okay to say, join us or die.
I know it was a hypothetical. But that was a hypothetical, wasn't it? Wasn't saying join me or die. It's a hypothetical. And that's how you have to do it. I'm sorry, it just is. History's shown us that. You are conscious of having fulfilled this mission, and aided by your generous courage and your admirable calm, we have chased out the government that betrayed us. At this time, our mandate has expired, and we yield it, for we don't claim to be taking the place of those who a revolutionary wind has just overthrown. So prepare and carry out your communal elections, and as a reward give us the only one we ever wished for, seeing you establish the true republic. Wow. It's very nice.
So who steps up then?
Well, different leaders that have been
Elected.
to the central committee.
So it can be anyone.
Yeah.
They'll get some nominations together. Every neighbourhood will elect a person or nominate a person, and that. So Jeff the baker, who's now a colonel.
Yeah, I was going to say. So during this revolution, you know, we've fought side by side, and I've seen Mike. You know,
Yeah.
just.
Hiding and shitting himself.
I was going to say wading in and you know, and conquering, and then you go, oh, I'm going to nominate Mike because you know
He showed real leadership during that.
valour and all
Yeah.
sorts. You know.
What a leader that guy is. He should
Right,
nominate
yeah,
us.
that sounds about right.
The reality is, here's Mike hiding behind the wicker basket, shitting his pants, calling for his mother,
Cooking some stale bread.
and then running away.
Yeah. It's probably more likely.
You're not a violent person, are you, Mike? You're a pacifist. You wouldn't want to do it.
No, but if I'm being attacked, then that's different, isn't it? If you're defending your neighbourhood, I just don't agree with first strike, innit? It's,
I'd be right on it like a fucking rat.
Right, give me that fucking cannonball.
You're right. Whatever's closest to me is getting picked up. I don't care what it is. I'm using it. I don't care. Give me a gun as well, but whatever's closest is being used as a projectile.
I'll be living my Call of Duty fantasy, sniper rifle in the highest tower.
You've probably got rifles at this point, but you probably only... Actually, no, we'd be talking. You might get 500 yards.
Yeah, just a
Not
vantage
accurate, but-
point.
With a decent... Right, these are bolt actions at this point.
Rifle, I suppose, yeah.
They're bolt actions, so it's, you know, we're talking decent accuracy.
Yeah. You get a good couple 100 yards easily with accuracy, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he's quite comfortably. Claire, I'm with you. I'm sniping somebody. I always play as a sniper too. I'm a camping bastard. Find me spots, find me nest, get me out of that.
I'm just all in there. Balls deep.
Getting bludgeoned to death horribly, but still balls deep.
Balls deep all the way, mate. Don't care how it happens.
Holding the flag in one hand and a sabre in the other, atop a mound of the enemy dead.
And I'll be using... The flag will be impaled with about 3 or 4 different people that... Because I've used the flag, obviously.
You can't do that, mate. You can't use the flag as a spear. It's got the flag on it.
I don't give a fuck.
He's all in.
He's
all in. Balls deep, mate.
You know what? In your bloodlust, anything's a weapon, isn't it?
I'm going to hide among the women and children. Don't kill me!
That's a very strange bearded child.
I'll just save the beard.
No, I've got so many sick ones. I can't repeat them on air, so we'll leave that to my imagination.
Thanks, love.
Thinking about a bearded lady.
Thanks, love. Like the beard. Gives me something to hang on to.
I was just picturing him fucking wearing like the skins of dead women. Pretending he's a woman.
That's really going to help me blend in, isn't it?
Yeah, they call it...
I'm disguising myself!
They start calling him Mikhail the Skinner. The Skinner. Yeah, you probably won't fit in as well. But you know what? Hey, under artillery fire, mate, people go mad. The Provisional Government's first official act was publishing a call for elections to determine the makeup of the Commune Council. The revolution of the previous day laid the foundations for a French Republic that would permanently mark the end of the era of invasions and civil war. Additionally, the Central Committee saw itself as the force that had defended Paris and one which would now return control of the city to its residents through the council elections. Less than 10 days later, on March 26th, and just 2 days later, the Paris Commune officially came into being. Given the urgency of organising an election within such a short time frame, there wasn't a great deal of discussion about their actual political programme. For this reason, according to Prosper Lissaguerre himself, who's the guy in charge, the main chap, himself a communard, votes were primarily cast based on name recognition.
Yeah.
Consequently, the Commune Council ended up comprising a colourful mixture of Jacobins, socialists, anarchists, romantic and representatives of the bourgeois opposition to Napoleon III, i.e. the sort of middle-class people who didn't really like Napoleon and stayed in Paris.
But isn't that what you want, isn't it? You want a bit from every little group.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a say then.
Sounds ideal.
Oh, it's fantastic! For the 2 months...
Yeah.
You know, it looks great.
But when they're looking, you know, because they haven't had discussion about their programme, that's where it becomes sticky, because it's these discussions that go on too long. It's the same in today's politics, isn't it? The discussions just keep going on. You know, it takes ages for people to agree on
I don't
something.
know, I agree that I think that we do have to have long discussions about things in the populace.
Stuff needs to get done as well.
It does need to get done eventually, yeah, but you need to have discussions on, you know, which way to go. And, yeah, I think it's a good...
I just think the cogs turn a little bit slow for my life.
Well, they do, yeah. They do. Perhaps speed up a bit, but yeah.
Now, this obviously meant the Commune included powerful factions that took their political inspiration from the concepts of the bourgeois French Revolution of 1789, right alongside proto-socialists, anarchists and Marxists. This is also a bit of an issue because none of you can agree on anything. Mm-hmm. This diversity of political positions was reflective of the century of class struggle that had preceded the founding of the Commune. And again, yeah, it's like there has been a class struggle across Europe, although, as you see, it hasn't really gone very far, but the currents are there. They've been building, except everywhere except Britain, for some reason. It's just always seemed to just crack on with it.
I think there was a lot more after the First World War, wasn't there?
There was a lot more after the First World War because that was seen as a bit of a betrayal by the guys that came back.
Yeah, I think that's as close as we got, I think.
Yeah, in fact, we get the army technically mutinied in 1918.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, the British armies, they wanted to go home. We joined up, we volunteered, we want to go home now, we're only stuck in France. They mutinied and the government realised having like 1 million plus trained hardened soldiers coming home and pissed off wasn't the best thing. Mm-hmm. And then they gave in to their wishes and brought them all home. But yeah, effectively mutinied, refused to carry out orders. Wow. It's the only time it's ever happened.
Cool.
Due to the growing animosity emanating from Versailles and the increasingly clear and specific demands made by the workers' districts, 16 elected representatives stepped down from their posts during the Commune Council's first meeting alone, as they were unwilling to participate in a committee structure that sought to operate at a level above that of a city council. They want to be a city council? No, this is only the country, mate.
Yeah.
We got Paris. We've got hundreds of thousands of people here willing to defend it. This is going to be it. Come on. No. City council. These withdrawals and the results of the subsequent by-elections led to the strengthening of the socialist agenda within the Commune.
Of course, there's people that don't want the countrywide socialism. They step down, and the ones that do step in, don't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Nevertheless, and also it's maybe just the way that it was voted. You know, chances are, like, you know, Francois the Baker, candle maker, right? He doesn't want it to go beyond the city, but he's happy to do it for the time being. But Joffrey over there, he thinks he should go to countrywide. He's my number 2, so he can step in and everyone knows who he is, so they go again unnamed, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, we know who he is, we'll have him. Nevertheless, the council remains shaped by individuals who adhere to a range of competing ideologies, occasionally leading to conflict. As a result, many of the Commune's political positions and policies remain somewhat vague. At the same time, however, the collaborative nature of the collective efforts to defend the newly established order in Paris was one of the Commune's strengths. And any evaluation of the Commune Council should not overlook the fact that, given the fact it only existed for 2 months, the time its members had begun to realise their political agendas was extremely limited. Beginning on the 2nd of April, government troops set out from Versailles to launch an offensive on the capital, forcing the Commune into war. Despite the urgency of the situation, the Commune Council was able to enact a number of important decrees aimed at bringing about fundamental social change. The following policies are particularly worthy of mention. So, even though they had it for 2 months, so you go from the 28th of March to the 25th of May, they still managed to get these policies in, even though they disagreed on everything. And on the 2nd of April, they have to fight a war. They've got to defend Paris. They've been elected by the people of Paris. They've got troops, they've got cannons, they've got rifles, they've got ammunition. But the government, who's buggered off to Versailles, is like, nah, you know what? Don't like that. So you'd be asking us to come back. We are the government. We've got all these troops. The following policies: a waiver on rents for the period of October 1870 to April 1871. I'm guessing that's when they're under siege.
I imagine so, yeah.
A ban on the sales of property pledged by citizens during the siege, or anything that's been pledged to help defend the city can't be sold on, it comes back to them, if it's still there. The dissolution of the standing army and its replacement by arming the populace.
So that's the Swiss model, isn't it?
It is, but the Swiss have got this massive, fantastic history of being wonderfully disciplined civilian soldiers, so I don't think the French have. That's the issue I have. Free public education. And mandatory public education, by the way.
Yeah. This was the first of its kind, this, wasn't it? I imagine at the time.
Yeah.
Wages for civil servants to be made reflective of the average worker's wage.
I love that. So politicians,
Everyone gets kind
the
of
average worker's wage.
Yeah.
You're representing your country, you shouldn't get any, that's a noble cause, but you shouldn't get any more than the average worker.
I agree with that, to be fair.
Yep.
I don't think they should be paid the money they are to fuck things up for everybody. You can hear Chester, the show cat. The takeover of abandoned factories by worker-controlled cooperatives. So this is your Marxism, isn't it, coming in? You're taking the means of production.
Yeah, the workers get to control the company, get to vote.
That's good.
It's just democracy, isn't it? At the moment, all our companies are fascist organisations. One leader that dictates all the way down, isn't it? Or a board of directors that dictates. The workers get no say. The company wants to move abroad because it's cheaper. Workers don't get a say, they just lose their job and they're put on the scrap heap, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, if you had workers being able to vote, they wouldn't want their jobs being taken away to China. They'd be like, no. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, so this is what you end up with a union. It's effectively unionised employment, fully unionised, so that everyone's in it
Even
together.
better than that, yeah.
Unions, I like unions. I do, they're a great thing, but my God, they become corrupt.
Well, there's corruption and everything, but they're still our best means of defence, aren't they?
They are, but...
Without them, we would be fucked.
Yes, it's true. I know, I just don't like the corruption nowadays, that's what it boils down to. The seizure and
Not as
redistribution...
much corruption as in the government, is there?
They're pretty much on a par, they donate to parties, they get the influence in parliaments.
I don't think so.
They do donate,
Yeah, they do, and they withdraw that donation, which a lot of the unions have done to Labour. Because I don't like the way they're...
I'm just saying, they still contribute.
I think they're highly dissolved now. They've got no power.
Well, they've been hamstrung, haven't they, completely?
It's true. But we got greedy at one point, a lot of strikes. Didn't do the industries any good.
The old guy I care for was telling me about strikes the other day, and there was this one place he worked, and they changed the menu in the canteen the one day, like from hot pot to something else, yeah. And the union rep got them all up and got them all walking out over the fact that they hadn't discussed it with the union members and everything.
Fair play.
Oh, come on.
That's taking the piss.
Nah, you don't...
That's going a step too far, isn't it?
And that's why British industry fucking failed, because of shit like that.
Half the people had probably brought their own bloody sandwiches in, and you know, so it's not even the majority that were going to be eating the hot pot.
Poor old sad Keith over there can't have his hot pot on a Thursday. Oh, fucking hell, who cares? Suck it up, get on with it.
Well, I think they should have a say over what goes on at their workplace myself.
Totally, but if they
Not the menu change.
Why not?
If they couldn't get lamb that day and they could only
Spending
get
half
beef.
your day, half your week eating there.
Yeah.
Come on, just fucking get on with
Well,
it.
even the old guy I care for, he was saying that they were taking the piss at one point, you know, it was just anything and everything, they just stand up and get everybody walking out, and I'd be like, really? And then that's it, you get the rest of the day off, and you're like, yeah.
It happens.
Power to the people, I say.
The automotive industry effectively killed itself with strikes. They're making a shit product and they wanted more and more money for making it.
Well, that's just bad governance, isn't it? That's not the workers' fault, it's the owners. They make the decisions.
The guys on the shop floor are the ones making the company the money. They always have been.
Yeah, because they're the ones doing the work.
Yes, if you're
they don't make the decisions.
If you're a
the
crap
company
job at it.
fails It's not the workers' problem, is
You're
it?
doing a crap job at it, and you're not making the money, but you keep demanding higher wages for doing a crap
It isn't
job.
because it's a crap job. It's because they
The
didn't.
shit falls from the top.
There you go. Runs down.
It
Yeah,
does.
so that you're sort of being a bit hypocritical there then, Mike, because at one point, a second ago, you were saying that they can't move their company to a different country, you know, for sort of cheaper labour, but if they stay in this country, it might fold anyway. So...
Can afford if everyone keeps going out on strike over the lunch menu.
Well, I'm sure that if the workers realise that, then they might want to ship some of the jobs over and have a compromise, but not all of it, and lose your job anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no. It just doesn't work like that, mate.
Well, no, it doesn't. Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, no one's going to vote for that, I'm telling you.
Well, there's a business model, and there's what they, you know, a business model says that they should get in profit, and they don't ever seem to take anything less than what, you know, it's something like 30%.
What's that?
Right, say I set up an ice cream stall, yeah, I've got to be making, I don't know what the maths is, I've heard it before though. I've got lost.
Something about ice cream.
Yeah.
About ice cream, it's about business.
Oh, I was just interested in the ice cream. What flavour was it?
Chocolate.
Oh, shit.
Alright, we'll go on with this. The seizure of redistribution of unoccupied housing, that's nice. No one's fancy a homeless problem, is it?
Yep.
Pan on punitive fines and docking of wages and salaries. You can't get your wages docked.
Okay.
Ban on night shift for apprentice bakers, and as French bakers start about 2 in the morning, I think.
Right, that's very specific for bakers, that one.
It is, yeah. I think bakers tend to
Bread was like
literally start at 2 in the morning.
the main food, wasn't it?
Mm. And of course, you fixed your price of bread, so everyone can eat. There you go.
Yep.
And there was free healthcare.
And why can't the apprentices work night shift?
Maybe because apprentices are usually 8, 9, 10 years old, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
You can't work a night shift in this country if you're under 18.
Yeah, maybe it is.
It was probably about that, yeah.
And you got less staff there, so maybe they've got a lot of burnt kids in it.
Maybe. Tired, burnt children.
Maybe.
This bread looks awfully like a small child. It's a funny shaped
I
loaf.
used to be singe themselves all the time because they're tired, they weren't paying attention.
Alright,
Well,
not just
no.
falling in the oven.
Yeah.
Getting cooked up with the boat with the loaf.
Maybe they'll fall into the oven because they're tired, yeah.
Excuse me, there's child bones in my bread. Again.
It's alright, feed it to the giants. They like bread made out of children's bones.
It's good for you, suck it up. We're living in a commune, what do you want? These measures are primarily a reaction to the living situation in Paris, and beyond meeting these immediate needs, however, they were intended to pave the way for the constitution of a social republic shaped by workers and tradespeople that prioritise their interests.
Now, wouldn't that be a better place?
Sounds it.
Society shaped by the workers, and they prioritise their interests rather than the interests of the elites.
The only problem I've
You
got
just end
with
up with a
this-
different class of elites eventually, you will. It's human nature.
The only problem
It
I've got
happens.
with this though is from the beginning of this episode I know this doesn't work. So it's great all this in like, oh, sounds brilliant, but it clearly didn't work because for whatever reasons we'll find out, I'm assuming, that it didn't
Wasn't
work.
allowed to work, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it that. I mean, it's in theory, it's wonderful.
On paper, it looks
I just
brilliant.
don't think that human nature allows us to do it. It might last a generation, it might last 2, but after that, it'll just go full on.
Oh, well, fuck it then. Just let them.
I
Let
just
the
think
cunts at the top just
Human
run riot.
nature,
and-
you just end up with different people at the top. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The wheel turns. Someone new comes
Break the
along.
wheel, Ben.
Break the wheel, but they still end up with another wheel. Like a generation down the line. You went from Lenin to Stalin. You can't get much more diverse than that. It just happens. It's just.
Just because things have failed in the
it's been
past doesn't mean that you can't.
It's human nature. It is. Every single experiment of this has failed
Well, what are you in politics for then? Why even fucking bother?
because we need a new system.
Do you know what I mean? How defeatist is this?
You're advocating that, are you, Ben? A new system.
What, the system that you devise?
No, I don't. I'm not clever enough to devise it, but enough clever people need to get together and think of a system that will work.
Well,
and
yeah,
is
that's
sustainable.
discussions that the people need to have, isn't it? Nice to have a media that wasn't
You
controlled
just,
by
you
the
just
elites.
end up with another bunch of elites after a while. You will. I'm sorry, you just will.
I thought he doesn't like prophecy, does he? He says normally.
It's not prophecy, it's historical fact. It's proven in every single government that's tried this. It's the way it's historically it happens. We had to take that as that's what's going to happen. You learn from history. That's the point of it.
Well, what are we learning from capitalism then?
It doesn't work. Well, it did work briefly, and then you let too many rich people get too much hold over the way things are done, which is the problem.
And it's eating the planet alive.
But if you take...
So you've got to change the system.
But if you take 50s America, height of capitalism, when it did actually work, and the unions had the power for the workers, and the bosses weren't paid much more, and everyone could afford to have one salary coming in and send their kids to free college and have a nice car and a nice house, living in the suburbs. Yes, there's still poverty. The majority of people who work hard can make a very nice life for themselves.
Of course they can.
And that's what it needs to be.
People are working now full time and they can't even afford to put food on the table.
Did both your parents work when you were kids, or did you just work to have a better life? Did they both work to have a better standard of living?
Your mum worked part time.
Your dad worked full time?
Yeah.
Dad full time, mum part time. Just...
Yeah, same.
My mum and dad did... My dad would do days, my mum would go do the twilight shift till 10, so part time. But then as I got older, they both went full time, just because, you know what, fuck it, we like to have a phone holiday.
Yeah, but now people are working them hours and
they're not getting it.
They can't even afford to heat the homes.
And that's what I mean. That's why it's broken. But back then, that's what you need.
Even in Britain, in the 70s, it was 1 to 10 ratio. So, like, the bosses when they get 10 times what the workers got. Now it's 350 times.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's still the 10 to 1 is still higher than America in the 50s. It was 7 or 8 to 1.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Unions had a lot of sway back then on wages, and because the country was prospering.
And it was a better country for everybody, wasn't it?
That's what you need. You need to get that balance back. But to do that, you've got to eat the rich.
Eat the rich.
No, not eat the rich. That's the phrase, and it's the hit phrase, eat the rich.
Is it?
Yeah, I've heard it.
'Tis now.
Alright, let's go to the women of the commune, I think. Because women played a massive part in this. Now, the commune's political practice was determined in large part by the numerous political clubs, district committees and the battalions of the National Guard, all who bore a strong influence on the activities of the Commune Council, along with the organisation set up by the women of Paris, who played an active role in shaping and defending the commune and fought for the ability to participate equally in social life. So equal rights for women.
This was before anywhere in the world, wasn't it?
Yeah, before anyone even attempted it.
Well, if they've been fighting alongside, you know, the lads anyway, they're going to be respected more, potentially.
Yeah. They were more capable than men, quoted famous communard Louise Michel. Her text is basically saying, more capable than the men to say definitely that it has to be this way. Although inside they may feel shaken to their very core, they remain outwardly serene, shorn of hate, of rage, of sympathy for either themselves or for others. They insist it has to be that way, even if it makes the heart bleed. That's what the women of the commune were like. So it's calm, serene, stoic, and more
resilient.
More resilient than the men. Her depiction underscores the crucial role that women played in the shaping of the commune and the struggle to protect it. And one of the reasons for this is that the organisations of provisions and fuel, tasks which typically fell to women, were of enormous importance to the maintaining of daily life under the Prussian siege. So cooking and making the fire became tremendously important when you were under siege. Finding food, cooking it, making the fire. Women did that. We kept you all fucking fed. Alright, it was rats. But we still fucking kept you all fed.
Ratatouille.
Yeah, there you go. This resulted in the formation of female networks in local communities that became conduits for the politicisation of Parisian women. To put it another way, the city's women directly affected by the hardships of war, but also beneficiaries of the commune's degrees, and that gets alignment with their own political project, because they want equal rights, simple as. So the government troops from Versailles began their offensive on Paris on the 2nd of April, and the commune was forced to defend itself against daily attacks from fresh units that had been brought to Paris from across France, and notably also prisoners of war who had been set free by the Germans. Amidst heavy fighting, control of the towns, buildings and fortifications surrounding Paris changed hands many times, although the National Guard, because they were like elected officers and all mates in the same neighbourhood, so like, do you want to go and take that fort today? Nah. Alright then. And when they actually tried to get professional officers in to like make their troops better, they were still like, nah, I didn't vote for you, mate. Won't be doing that today. Don't fancy that. Just gonna sit here and get drunk, I think. It's an issue, isn't it?
It is.
You don't want an egalitarian military. You just don't. On the 21st of April, however, troops from Versailles made their decisive strike on Paris. Following weeks of heavy artillery bombardment, the city's fortifications lay unoccupied. Someone left the gate unguarded. Oh. Whether that's basic military incompetence by someone who decided they didn't want to go to work that day, or whether that's they were deliberately done in by an informer on the inside, we will never know. However, they were informed the West Gate was unguarded by a royalist, a government sympathiser, who presumably lived near the West Gate and ran out of it to tell them.
He was like, yeah, we got the West Gate, no worries. And as soon as they walk away, right, fuck off, let's tell them it's free, man, they can get in.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I think they were
I like to think
betrayed.
I like to think the niggas got drunk and decided not to go in typical French fashion.
There is that possibility.
Let's go and get some cheese instead and drink some wine.
Yes, we'll play chess in the park.
And then maybe have a small sleep.
And then drink more.
And have sex with my god.
Oh, your mistress, quite French to have a mistress, isn't it?
That is the god.
Following this incursion, the remaining Communard forces barricaded themselves in their local neighbourhoods, where they tried to resist the government troops' advance as fiercely as they could. The problem is you got no central leadership then. Everyone's split up in their own little street.
People are just shooting and trying to fight with whatever they've got, with no leadership.
And you can't control anything.
Direction.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer.
They just... exactly, Claire. Exactly, yeah.
Without the conquer bit, it was just divide.
They divided themselves.
Divide and do whatever.
Yeah, they divided themselves.
And got conquered.
Yeah. Divide and get conquered. Oh shit. That was the wrong phrase.
It took them basically 10 days.
Fucking hell, that's not much, is it, when you think?
No.
But they did go street by street, overcoming dogged resistance. So
They
they put up a fight
They did.
to the last.
And the last shot was fired from a commune-held cannon. The piece, charged with double shot, with a terrible clash, exhaled the last sigh of the Paris Commune. Double shot is they basically load 2 cannonballs in. The last barricade of the May days was in the Rue Ramponneau, and for a quarter of an hour a single federal defended. Now 11 o'clock it was all over. On the 29th of May, Adolphe Thiers declared that order had been restored to Paris, but the end of Communard resistance did not mean an end to the killings. I just want to point out, while they were doing the fighting street to street, obviously Communards were surrendering.
Yeah.
They were all executed.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Just shot. That was it. The first time they encountered, I think there was like 12 Communard troops against a company of a similar number of French government troops who clearly just outmatched them. Like 4 were killed, 6 were wounded, and 4 surrendered. And they just like shot the 4 straight away. And then when they'd encounter military hospitals, they would just shoot the prisoners in their beds, shoot the guys in their beds. You fought against us, you're dead. Simple as. Adolphe Thiers literally ordered that. No prisoners amongst the guys. Unless, of course, they're like a high-ranking official and you get what you want out of them, then shoot them. Now, the exact number of those who fell victim to this bloodshed remains unknown, as the bodies of most of those killed were hastily buried or burned. It is clear, however, that during the bloody week in May, I've heard up to 30,000.
Yeah, between 15 and 30,000, I think. It's hard to verify.
Big city though, isn't it? So, you know.
But still 30,000 people who lived there just killed because they didn't fancy going back under that government.
Yeah, and a further 9,000 were sentenced to either imprisonment or exile. Now, exile in them days meant a slow death. You go to like an island. What was the island they used?
Well, they sent to Napoleon to St Helena, but that was taken over by the British. Now they send them to their North African colonies.
No, they sent them to Martinique or something, or...
Yeah, they're African colonies.
They'd be sent somewhere.
That's not Africa,
used
that's in the
as slave
Caribbean.
labour.
The Caribbean, then.
It'd be used as slave labour, wouldn't they?
Yeah, until
Yeah.
they died, basically.
Effectively. Yeah, it's a shame. In reckoning with the French state's actions concerning the commune, it's also important to highlight that even after the mass executions has ended, a further 9,000 were sentenced to either imprisonment or exile in the forts along the French Atlantic coast, to be fair. So you're sitting in a fort in Normandy under guard all the time, working your balls off until you die.
Yeah, but above all, in the penal colony on New Caledonia, there we go, known as the dry guillotine.
They did die in great numbers before an amnesty declared in 1880 permitted survivors to return to their homeland.
That's 9 years later, isn't it?
Yeah. However, there was no rehabilitation and the sentences received by the communards retained their legal validity. To this day, French authorities have staunchly refused efforts to have them revoked. So yeah, they won't even take away their criminal records off them. Really pissed
Even
them
to
off.
this day, because it's the Royal Elite, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. They won't let you have it. Workers try and dictate themselves. They want the power back. They just slaughter everybody.
I'm very surprised the French army went in and did that, to be fair. But then again, it depends on the level of propaganda they've been receiving as well, doesn't it?
Oh,
They aren't receiving the news that these guys fought Paris while we were locked in a German prison camp. They're receiving these are traitors.
yeah, they'll have spun it like, this traitor's been,
They've
taken
taken over Paris. Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
to take it back.
They let the Germans in. They couldn't hold it. They're cowards, and then they were turning against us. We fought for them.
Yeah.
But still, to just execute a prisoner is a big thing. You know, it is mentally.
And it's one of your population as well. It's not
Yeah.
a foreign invader or anything.
Yeah.
People you probably know.
Yeah, totally.
So there we have it.
There we have it. So
Short history of the Paris Commune.
it's interesting. I think the problem is the problem the left traditionally has, where they can't agree on anything, and
That was part of the problem, wasn't
you
it?
shouldn't really be having a.
But it was never going to work because you know what was going to happen. The army was going to come back in and
I was going to say,
take it over.
it was because
It
it
was
was
an
all under
inevitability.
pressure, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they had to take Paris, and then, you're in a state of,
You've been defending for your lives against this foreign invader. You've been left alone by your government,
Yeah.
and then when they surrender, they let them do 2 days of parading through the streets, rub it in your face. By the third day, that was what triggered it, wasn't it? And they were like,
Yeah.
fuck this. We're going to create our own National Guard. And
Well, they already had the National Guard. It just came out. It took over briefly, didn't it? While we're the only organised force left. But then they gave up their mandate.
no,
and
they
gave it to the people.
deposed the
Oh, the
middle-class
authorities that
people
were left, yeah.
in the National Guard and put their own men
Yeah.
in, didn't they?
Which again is an issue. You don't want an equality, a military with equality.
No, it was another problem. Yeah,
You know,
Who's the boss?
well,
that's it, isn't it?
yeah, I don't fancy doing that.
If your soldiers aren't going to obey, what's the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, you ain't going to defend it against professional troops because your guys aren't. No matter how much you drill them in the 2 months you've got.
But the way they responded, I mean, it's called the Bloody Week for a reason.
I couldn't find anywhere how many people died at the government army. That was puzzled me.
No.
Probably nowhere near as many.
No.
I'm guessing.
No. So, what do you think?
Batshit crazy.
It's inconceivable, isn't it?
It was just desperate people at the time, and they just wanted to. The government had let them down time and time again, and they wanted to
It's a shame they
dictate
weren't.
things themselves.
It's a shame they weren't left
Yeah,
to their
or
own
helped,
devices for
yeah.
a bit longer, see how it worked, and then maybe use that as a stencil to be able to shape the rest of the fucking country.
Yeah.
And other countries would have maybe taken that on board.
Yeah,
It
that's
could
a-
have completely
Yeah.
changed the tide of the future.
Well,
Well, that's what happens now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a South American country, votes in a socialist, and what do the Americans do? Sanction it, prevent it from growing and blooming and blossoming. And they tried to do it to Cuba, but they failed to an extent.
No, to a point.
But I mean, imagine if they'd helped Cuba rather than impede them. Of course, they were never going to do that.
No, the problem you've got, especially in this scenario in France, is like, well, this is civil war, isn't it? At this point, because you just declared the independent Republic of Paris, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people voted for it.
They did, but the government...
Democratic elections, mate, and they overturned it with violence.
Which is what the man always does throughout history, isn't it? Because they don't want... No one's going to give up their power. Go, all right, then. Oh, you go on, then. So, no, I'm in charge. Fuck off. This is the way it's always been, isn't it? And it's sad. It is sad. I agree with you. It's terrible. Until you can get that man out of the way.
Yeah, well, they've got no moral authority now, have they? They've led us to the brink of, what is at worst, oblivion, and at best, a nightmarish future, yeah. So they failed us, haven't they?
Need a new system.
Too little, too late.
Oh, I don't think too little, too late. That's really defeatist.
Yeah. We've got to act now, soon.
Yeah, it's got to be done quick.
Won't happen though, that's the point.
You know, I like the idea. I think that, you know, the stuff they were advocating was decent. So it should be everything should be
some great ideas.
Should be a fairer society. Wages should be more on par, unless you're like ridiculously qualified, in which case I'll waive it.
Yeah, if you're a brain.
I wouldn't mind, but it's the workers that make the profits.
Yeah, but if I'm a brain my brain surgeon's getting paid more than me not to fuck up, and I need brain surgery, I'm happy for
Well,
that.
that's fair enough. Pay him 10 times what the average worker gets.
Yeah, that's fine. Give him that.
Leave that as the cap.
But why pay the banker 350 times? Yeah, leave that as a cap.
Yeah.
Why does the banker who ruined the economy and has caused this misery since 2008 around the world?
Yeah.
So they all went to school together? That's why. There's your answer. Everyone went to school together.
Shagged the same teenagers on Epstein's Island.
Allegedly.
More than likely.
Allegedly. Gotta say allegedly.
Allegedly, more than likely.
Allegedly. Remember our legal position? Allegedly.
You can say anything if you say allegedly.
You can, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, they definitely did it, allegedly.
Yeah, you can say anything as long as you say allegedly. That's true. But no, the stuff it's great. Free healthcare, free education. I think that stuff should be like just a standard and to a good standard. You know, the fixing of prices is good. The wages wages are good. It's fantastic, but you got to get these people out, and the ones who the man ain't gonna let you have that.
There are some bits of that obviously we've taken on board.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The healthcare, the education, the
Pensions as well.
minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yep.
Kids can't work nights, otherwise they end up tired and burnt.
So a lot of those rules clearly fucking stuck.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that the other few rules that have fucked up the country by not being followed, and every other country in the world. If all of those rules had been followed, other than the select few that have been,
Be nice, wouldn't it?
fucking be amazing. It would. It's a shame.
Be cracking.
Shame it will never happen, but hey ho. And on that bombshell, eh?
Yeah. I've been Ben. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Facebook at Cutting to the Bull in the Post-Truth Apocalypse. YouTube is Apocalypse Bull. And most podcasting platforms as Cutting to the Bull in the PTA. Don't drink the Flavour Aid. Don't join a cult. Don't not assume the government are going to turn up and ruin your perfect society.
I've been Mike. Thanks for listening. Peace out. May the force be with you. Solidarity to the people.
And I've been there, keep an open mind, but not so open that it spills out your ears.
And I've been Pete.
Viva la revolution! I'm surprised you don't want power to the people there, Wolfie.